Okay, we're going to get started with today's Love and Learn, and here we go. Let's go and get going on this. So, if you want to breathe along with me, I would love for you to take your 3 deep grounding breaths. Remember, we just don't breathe enough, and we need to breathe from our bellies, right? If we're even aware of breathing, a lot of us breathe from our chest. We need to get into that belly and really feel that belly. Okay, so here we go. Ready? One, two. Woo, I just felt everybody click in. They were here, but they just like clicked in the seatbelts. My name is Jen Cushman. I am an empathic intuitive, and I am an energy practitioner of Reiki for 25 years and Huna. And I am also a master practitioner of neurolinguistic programming, mental emotional release, and hypnotherapy. So that's what I am. And today's love and learn topic today is really about, it's going to be, the topic is kind of interesting. It is the subtle art of not caring. That's what I called it, which is really interesting, a subtle art of not caring. Okay. Now, before I get into the topic, what I do want to say to you guys is, yay, we made it through December to 2024. Okay. I want you guys to know that, remember, in January 1st of this year, I was talking to you about this was a universal 8 year, and I was in a double 8 year. So, a 8 year, eights are all about manifestation and abundance and wealth building and action taking. An 8 year is a very physical year in that it is really, you've done the intro work and now you have to do the outer work. So it's really about putting yourself out there, taking chances, making things happen in your career if you want to, making things happen in your relationship. It was eight is a masculine year, right? So it is not feminine. We're going into feminine next year in a 9 year, and I'll be talking about that. But it's a very masculine, direct, focused energy year. It was also a year of high intensity. We had a lot of cosmic events going on this year, and also solar maximum. Now, remember, we are still in solar maximum. And so if you want to know more about that, go back onto my YouTube channel, soulstarmagic.com, type in solar maximum, and then you can watch some of those older Magic Mondays where I explain what solar maximum is, what it's doing, and how it is energetically affecting our bodies, physical bodies, and our light bodies. So anyway, the great news is you have made it. You made it to December of 2024, you guys. And I think if you all agree, and I would love the feedback here, we had some challenges this year. It has been a very tough year at times and very challenging. I refer to my September as stuck September. So it was just stuck. The energy was incredibly stuck. And I had I pretty much ran from January to July without having a break in my schedule. And then I got a break. And then, I had some downtime and some other things. But it's been energetically challenging for me this year. And I'm in tune with the energies, working with the energies, grounding my energy, doing everything I can to make sure that I live my divinity and my humanity. And there were times where I got exhausted. So I don't know if that was you guys at all, if you had it this year, but if you did experience it, just know that this physical 8 year is about ready to be wrapped up. And I'm going to talk a lot about the 9 year, particularly in, the Magic Mondays in January and when that one's going to happen. So I'll be talking about forecasts for 2025 and what the 9 numerological year means. What I want to say today is it is just calmer, okay? It is going to be less rocky in a lot of ways. It's feminine energy. It's going to be able to turn back inward after all of this outward that we have been doing. So congratulations, my magical community. Congratulations, my friends. You have done a lot this year, and I'm really proud of you, okay? I'm proud of me, and I'm proud of you. Okay. To that end, I want to, for today's Magic Monday topic, again, the subtle art of not caring. And where that came in is I was just reading, psychology articles. I'm certified by the Association of Integrative Psychology. So I get a lot of positive psychology articles that come in and a lot of reading that I do for research for my own self on positive psychology and psychology. And there was an article similar to this, and they actually had that in there. And it was not in the title of the article, but in the body of the article. And it was talking about how important it is to not care so much. And so I thought that was really fascinating. And I know I've got my notes off to the side. So if you guys see me looking over this way, you know, I'm just looking at my notes that I had. But I got to thinking about it because, you know, one of the things is, again, I talk about how the community, we are all light workers, way showers, sensitives, feelers, healers, creatives. That's who my community is made up of. That's who you guys are. That's who I am. And so one of the things that happens when you are in a group of a lot of feelers, deep feelers and deep healers, is that we are also, you know, nurturers. And a lot of us are mothers, right? So we've done the mothering, we're doing the mother thing, you know, we're taking care of others. You know, I know Deborah still takes care of people every single day in her beautiful bed and breakfast, and that's what we do. So one of the things as nurturers, and particularly as mothers, is we often over nurture and we will over care, right? And we will think that we know what is best for the other person. We know what is best for the loved ones, okay? Now, it's different when, like I am, you know, like Jesse is some other people, when we are still raising these young human beings, it is our job to look at the big picture. It is our job to make decisions for it. It is our job to guide and help them because they're not there yet, right? They are still developing. And that's still a lot of it. I am still raising my daughter and getting this, you know, doing that. So that means there's a lot of me still, you know, telling her to clean her room and all the other things I have to do. Now, my son just turned 25 and he is a young adult. I mean, he's an adult and he's doing really, really well. And I find myself really needing to pull back and you know, I can do the guiding thing that I do, and he's also of the age where he needs to have his own experiences. So that's really what I want to talk about today, is this act of not caring as much, okay? And what that actually means. And I think this is going to be very helpful for a lot of you because it's been helpful to myself in here, in that particularly this time of year, the holiday year, we have more interactions with family than we normally do. You know, we're going to have more of our intimate relationships are going to be coming together than they normally do in this time of year. And so that's why I really want to talk about this. Also, moving from this very physical 8-year of outward manifestation, moving back into the feminine 9-year, this is a very feminine energy that I want to speak about. And I think that you're going to be able, you know, hopefully this will be able to help you as you segue into the feminine 9-year again. Okay. Okay. So, so one of the things I said was like, you know, here's what I wrote. Okay. I want to tell you, it says, there's a fine line between caring too much and not caring at all. And today I want to talk about mastering the subtle art of letting go, or of not caring as much. Sounds crazy, right? Especially coming from someone who shows up here every single Monday to share information and positive thoughts, you know? And you guys, I say over and over again that love is my highest value. So how is it possible that love can be my highest value? And I'm talking about the subtle art of not caring today. We'll get into that, okay? What I'm really talking about is mastering the art of not caring is really about the intention of it, right? It's not to become indifferent to other people's needs and desires. You know, I had a really good friend of mine once that told me, he said, you know, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference. And I thought that was fascinating. And it really, really stuck with me because it's true. Because love and hate still have the same energy. It's still wrapped up in the other person, and it still has all that emotion. Deep love and deep hate still has an intensity to it, right? Whereas indifference has zero intensity, right? Indifference is like, I'm flat. I really don't care at all. So I'm not talking about indifference because I still believe that part of what we're called to do here as light workers is to care, right? And to care about those who make it very difficult to care about them. That's the challenge. Remember, last week I talked about how I don't believe that we are meant to go sit on a mountaintop to learn spirituality, that is not our job. Our job is to figure out our spirituality in our humanity, living our daily existence of children and work and spouses and, all of the things, right? All the things. And so it's very much the same energy here. So it's not to become indifferent, it's to care and not care so much that you are so incredibly wrapped up in that other person, right? So that's what I'm talking about. It's about finding that balance within ourselves of what is ourselves. How do we love without overloving? How do we care without overcaring? Because what happens is when we overcare or we overlove, we are injecting the energy of control. And we are really saying, it's a control issue. It's like we are being controlling. Like, you know what I mean? I'm going to love you so much that, you're going to see that what I know is best for you is best for you. And then what happens? You guys that are parents, the kids are like, I'm out, right? Peace out. I don't want that. They don't like that energy of overdoing. So that's really what it is. Okay. So this is really what I'm talking about, is finding that balance. In a spiritual sense, what I'm really talking about is two things. I'm talking about the subtle art of discernment, and I'm also talking about the subtle art of non-attachment. Okay. Now, a metaphor, a story. As I've told you guys in my past, I'm a recovering perfectionist. I am a recovering people pleaser, and I'm doing a much better job. And I still find myself sometimes going into that. And so one of the things about that is that I just always had this belief that, I would love somebody so much that I had this belief. And because of my empathetic nature, because of my ability to sense things outside the realm of physicality, I just would know that I knew what was right for people. And one of the best things that ever happened to me was in 2020 when I opened up Soulstar Magic. It is when I actually said to the universe, okay, I'm answering the call. I'm going to open up my business and be a professional reader and be a professional energy practitioner. And that's when I also expanded my capabilities and I started learning these other modalities of healing, the mental and the emotional healing. And one of the best things for me to happen was because when I opened up my business to be a professional reader, I had to let go. I had to make sure that I care about the client who's in front of me, and yet I am simply an open channel to source. So the information can come from source, it can come from the guides, it can come from the angels, just like the energy does. And I am simply a transmitter and it flows through me. So I am a translator and a transmitter of the energy. And really, I'm an open channel. So that means that when I would have clients and we're giving the information and we're talking about it, and I'm giving them, advice from my team of what could help them. And a lot of times the advice from our angels and guides is very simple, as in like, you've been overdoing it. Please look, are you sleeping enough? Are you eating well? Are you taking care of yourself? Basically what they're saying is you can't pour from an empty cup. And then a lot of times, the people who I'm reading for will be like, I can't. I don't have time to take care of myself. I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time for these things, And the guides are basically saying to me, well, you need to tell them they need to make time, right? Because they are just as important as everybody who they're trying to help. So a lot of times that kicks up people's stuff and they don't like hearing that in a reading. And I had to really learn to have non-attachment. I had to learn to care about them, love them, allow my work to be made visible of love, and also just be the messenger and just to deliver the information. And then whatever they do with it is their responsibility, because we all are 100% responsibility for our actions and reactions. And I also had to not care from an ego sense of, did I do a good job? Did I not do a good job? And do that loop of like, did I do it right? Did I not do it right? That's not the way it works when working with the other side. With working with the other side is you just let it flow. And that's what it is. So this is how I had to practice, was forced to practice for a great thing, this art of non-attachment, this art, this subtle art of not caring so much and caring so deeply. Okay, does that make sense? You guys got it? You with me? Hopefully that's making sense for you. Okay. So I want to give you 3 quick tips, okay? Just 3 tips, because this is a practice and this is a lifelong practice. And what I'm telling you is much more like a lot of things that we work with on a spiritual level, bringing it from spiritual to physical. A lot of this stuff is easier said than done, right? And so that's why it becomes a practice. An awareness of these concepts, awareness of these ideas, knowing that you have tools at your disposal, and then using the appropriate tool for the job. So it's not about just collecting all these tools. It's about having the tools so you have the right tool for the right job of the right moment. And that's what a lot of Magix Mondays is. I am here to equip you with the awareness and the tools, and then you have to take it and use them whatever way it works for you, whatever resonates with you. Okay. Okay. I'm going to do this. You guys, my scarf is choking me. So give me just a second for that. Okay, great. Okay. So here are a couple tips to help allow this subtle art of non-attachment, the subtle art of not caring quite so much. Okay. And here it is. First one is recognize and remember that as human beings, we are all perfectly imperfect, right? There is no such thing as a perfect human being. It just doesn't exist. And a lot of times when we are frustrated by the communication that we are having and the results that we are receiving, it's because we have expectations of either ourselves or the other person of some level of perfection. We have an expectation that they should be old enough to have gotten this by now. Like, come on, you're 70 years old. You don't know these things by now? Or come on, you're 16. How many times have I told you the same thing over and over and over again, right? So it is that level of expectation, right? It is my projection on the other person that because I have this down, I think I do anyway, because I have this down, I expect them to have them down. So if we can just remember and just give, it's also a way of giving grace to ourselves and others, that we are just simply imperfect human beings. We are complicated beings. We have beautiful brains. We have complex emotions. And that a lot of times connecting the heart and the head is a challenge. Those are very 2 different aspects of ourselves. Okay. Our head is one thing. Our heart is another. Our head is our mental, our heart, our emotions, right? And a lot of us, particularly in the world that we live in the 21st century, with all the fast changes that are taking place and everything that's happened, we live in a very mental world. So we seek the answers in our brain, when in reality, the answers for a lot of us, for me anyway, for how I find peace, is to allow it to come from above spiritually and allow it to trickle down through the mental into the emotion and into the physical. And that's how I find my peace, my calm, my center. Okay. So just know that getting that heart and that head is they coexist, but they also take time and practice and lots of learnings to do that. So one of the things to do this, the art of not caring, is forgive yourself when you're imperfect. Do your best to forgive others for their imperfections and their mistakes and their missteps. Recognizing that we are all perfectly imperfect human beings is to recognize that we may have embraced unreal expectations. And it also helps extradite ourselves from the fixer mentality, right? Constantly thinking someone is broken and they need to be fixed. They need help. They need our advice. I'm not against therapy. I think therapy can be a really wonderful thing. I think therapy for a lot of people, particularly people who have suffered deep trauma in their lives or suffered addictions or suffered divorce or complications, therapy is an amazing thing. Unfortunately, one of the things that I have noticed in therapy with a lot of people is you go to a therapist thinking that you're broken, right? Or the marriage is broken, or something is broken. And the reality is we are not broken. We are just perfectly imperfect, okay? We are all built this way. We are all beautiful. We are all whole. We are who we are, and we are here for the learnings and the blessings. Remember the lessons and the blessings. So the first thing is to remember you are not broken. The other person is not broken. And if we can come from that first, we can widen our grace. We can widen our non-attachment. We can widen our level of discernment. Okay. Number one tip. Number two, and this is really important, and I started off talking about this first with you, and it has been an incredibly important lesson to me in my life, which is stop the people pleasing. Okay. People pleasing is a coping mechanism that comes from dysfunctional family in the unconscious mind, right? So dysfunctional family values or ways of being or habits or behaviors. So people pleasing is something that comes particularly to sensitive people, highly sensitive and empaths. What happens is because we have these extra sensitivities around and we're around other people, particularly in early childhood, that maybe were a little bit more volatile, our nervous systems were always on hyper alert. And so what we did is we could feel the energy, read the energy. And what we did as children is we learned to calm the energy down by calming down that volatility that is in the family structure. Now, this doesn't happen to everybody. Please know that I'm not overarching and overgeneralizing. I'm just saying that I've done a lot of research into why we have people pleasing, why we do it, what strategy is, and where does it come from. And then with the training to be able to clear that. So I have cleared that to the best of my ability, and it's a shadow that still rears its ugly head. You know what I mean? People pleasing is when you meet everybody else's needs before you meet your own. It's when you are constantly putting somebody before yourself. It's when you are not setting loving, firm boundaries and you're not holding them. That's what people pleasing is. Okay. It leaves us drained. That's what people pleasing does. It leaves us resentful, exhausted, and drained. So, what this really means is learning to say no when you want to, not feeling guilty, and the big thing is stop caring so much what other people think of you. Their thoughts and their judgments are not really your problem. Okay. That was my big problem. I would go teach and I would teach. I've told you this before. I would teach 100 people in a room. I would have 99 people come up to me or write, notes or whatever and say it was a great class. I'd have one person that would say something horrible and that would set me in a spin because what in the world did I do wrong to that one person was unhappy? What I have learned is that one person was just unhappy. She most likely came into the class unhappy, and whatever I said or did just triggered her to make her even more unhappy. And what she thought of me as an instructor or anything else is none of my business. My job was to show up to the best of my ability, teach my classes to the best of my ability, hopefully inspire people and hopefully help them learn. I did my job and I did it well. And my emotional baggage would stop me from knowing that. Okay. So that's the next tip on that, where you have. And then let's see, let me see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay. That was good. So people pleasing. So now just looking at my last one. So my last one is just my third tip for you, and then I'll get to the rest of what we're going to do today, is practice detachment. Okay. So this is kind of the non-attachment. Before you can get to non-attachment, you have to get to it. You have to know what detachment is first. Okay. You can't just go from attachment to non-attachment without detaching first. Okay. It's just like you can't construct something new without deconstructing something old. It's all part of the process. So when you're first learning these concepts and you have somebody in your life that you know that you might be in an unhealthy behavior pattern with, right? Unhealthy habits with, in order to change the unhealthy patterns and get to non-attachment or not caring as much, we got to get to detachment. And detaching doesn't mean ghosting the people in your lives. It doesn't mean being uncaring or unfeeling. It just means that, you know, it means it's being open to the concept that everything is energy and that energy is always flowing and moving. So non-attachment is a central thing in Buddhism. I know I've got a couple of Buddhists on here. It's a big deal to get to non-attachment, okay? Now, that's what it is. It's about learning ourselves and knowing what we can and we can't do. And setting those boundaries. If you have some people in your life that are constantly coming at you and they are constantly needing from you and they are constantly pulling on you and they're not listening and they're not taking responsibility for their lives and they're being a victim and they're looking for you to solve their problems, which you have done every single time again and again and again, and they're not listening, it's time to detach from that situation. They're not getting it. They don't want to get it. They just want to dump. They don't want to take responsibility for their lives. And it's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is your life. So before you can get to non-attachment with these people, you have to detach them. That's where you actually have to set some boundaries and say, you know what? We keep having the same conversation. We're going round and round and round on this conversation, and you're not listening. So therefore, if you don't want to listen, then I really can't have this conversation anymore. We're going to have to talk about something else. And then they're just going to have to find somebody else to dump on. Okay. You are not the empath. You are not the healer, the feeler that needs to hold space for this time and time again. That's what detachment is. Okay. So let me just read what I say. It says, yeah, detachment is about us learning ourselves and knowing what we can and we can't control. It's often about surrendering our own attachment to the people, places, and things that are truly out of our control and letting the universe handle the energy. In my Huna trainings in Hawaii, this is spiritual shamanistic training that I'm doing right now and have been. It is understanding, you know, one of the things, understanding about energy and this energy flow. And one of the things my mentor says a lot when we are in Hawaii, he says the Aina, the land, knows what to do. The energy knows what to do. So basically, when we'll go on our field trips or we're going places to Honanao for forgiveness, we're going to other places, what he's basically saying is detach, sit on the ground, sit on the land, and allow the energy of the land to flow through you. Allow spirit to come in, enter you, and be an open vessel so it can clean you and clear you because the energy knows what to do. So that's what I do, is allow the energy to flow. To me, this implies that there's a divine intelligence. It's bigger and greater than me. And that if I release my attachment to it, whatever it is, then I can get out of my own way and I can allow divine intelligence to take over and take right action. And I think that's the important piece that I really wanted to tell you, is if we can surrender to divine intelligence, we can get into the flow of life and we can allow things to just go much more easily when we don't feel the need to over control it. Okay. And that is very much feminine energy. It is 9 energy that we're going to go into, and I'll be talking to that a lot more. Okay. Okay.